Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome. It's Nurse Richard the Wax Wizard. Right, this case, oh, what a difficult one this was. What a mess it was as well. It wasn't very pleasant at all. The story behind this gentleman is quite an elderly gentleman with quite a lot of, I think he was nearly 90, and he had quite a lot of other health conditions. And we found another one, unfortunately, because what had happened to his ear, the title of the video will give it away, a rotting ear, some obviously artistic license in that, but that is kind of is what's happening with this ear. He had a huge erosion in the bottom of his ear canal. It won't become obvious now. You'll look at this and think, oh, it's just standard earwax this, but after we get through this first section, it's like an infected ear soup. It's horrible stuff, and it's really difficult to remove. But then when we managed to get through that finally, there was this huge erosion at the bottom of his ear canal, and as I've said in other videos, you can't be 100% sure what's caused it, but with this one, I'm pretty sure it's a combination of infection and poor blood flow to this area. And do you know what? He was really pragmatic about it. Now, I've come across quite a lot of patients like this gentleman who, he did chat a lot, by the way, during the procedure. If for some reason it seems I've stopped and no reason why. He was chatting a lot, and he was extremely jumpy to the noise. Any little squeak or slurp, which is inevitable with microsuction, he nearly jumped out of his skin. I don't know how he heard it through this ear, to be honest. He must have been hearing it through his other ear, but that wasn't great either. But when I say he was extremely pragmatic about it, I was obviously stopping throughout the procedure and and showing them on the screen. His family were there as well, and I was explaining what I've found, and that it can potentially quite nasty. And his response mostly was, well, it's an old ear, so be it, So obviously I've had to refer him for it. But a lot of people, especially when they're a little more elderly, often refuse any further treatment. And to those who are a bit younger and more well, they might think, well, why would you do that? And I found the reason it's all about quality of life, because, for example, if this man needs a lot of investigation, he doesn't like leaving the house. It's a real effort for him. He's in a wheelchair, not great on his legs, has some other issues, which means which I won't go into, which means he kind of needs to be at home. And they often just don't want any fuss. I don't think he wouldn't want to attend for a scan, have x-rays, go to appointments that are and about potential treatment in the future, excuse me, or even surgery. And sometimes we have to accept that that's absolutely fine, that you can't force treatment on people. You really can't. And I did come across this quite a lot in my old job, especially when there was maybe something terminal involved, because I used to look after a lot of patients who had terminal illnesses. And a lot of them, got to a point where they said, do you know what, just leave me alone. I just want to be left alone to live out the rest of my life without anybody fussing around me, or without test for this, test for that. And so some practitioners might find that quite difficult to understand. I totally get it, because I came across it a lot. And he was very much of that ilk, so to speak. He was like, well, it is what it is. All I want you to do is just to be able to make me hear again. If I need a few antibiotics, then I'll do that, and I'll come and see you every now and then and get it checked out. But other than that, I'm not fussed about being referred to any specialist or anything like that. Obviously, I have to, as a matter of course, because he's told me that. I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I said, oh yeah, that's fine then, see you later. I still have to explain this to him. I said, well, I'm going to have to send all these findings to your GP, and then that's up to yourself and your GP, the decision you make on what kind of treatment you will accept, if any, after that. And that's absolutely fine. But you can already see the eardrum in the distance. So at this point, hearing is pretty much back to normal. And at this point, he would have happily let me stop. Now, I did say I would rather clear a fair bit of this. He let me do quite a lot of it, but I would have rather got a bit more at the end, but he'd had enough. And that's fine. Now, what you're seeing here, all this stuff here, it's obviously, like I referred to before, it's like an infected ear soup. It is pretty grim, and whenever you see ears like this, you're thinking, what's where, what's supposed to be there, I really don't know. But I suspect this is just a huge crater at the bottom of his ear canal, which you can't really tell where the base of it is. Where's the bone? Now, we did find some a bit later on, and you will see that it's quite clearly bone. I can tell when I was touching it, and it just completely crumbled away all over the place. But he did, and again, another reason why I didn't get every single speck, because he did find it uncomfortable at times, and because he's a pragmatic chap. He said, "Well, why would I go through something that was uncomfortable if I didn't really need to?" I can hear again now. I did explain that it will stop you getting poorly if you let me just get a bit more, please. And he was fine with that after we'd built up a rapport.
Well, you can see that quite clearly, can't you?
But it's with ones like this, it's kind of hard to know where you are and what everything is. I think I must have said it before in early videos. You kind of got to forget everything you know about the anatomy of a normal ear canal when you see one like this, because it's not normal. So trying to suction away as much of this with the fine tube now I've gone down to, suction away as much of this dead skin as we can, and some of the goop. But again, because he felt it uncomfortable at some points, some areas of this would have been where some healthy ear canal, and until you touch up against them, you're not really sure. If you can see a little bit of pink, then that's the skin of the ear canal. But because this soup has just covered the entire area, it's really difficult to tell. It really is. It's probably the jumpiest patient I've had in as well. I had to edit this it took me a long time to edit this, because a few times I went in, took out a tiny little bit, and he jumped out of his skin. So there's a fair bit of editing that goes into this. Right, I normally leave everything, but I've just cut a lot of it out because you just watched him, watch me go in with a tube, him jump, and that's it, come out again. And I could have done that at least 10, 20 times. He was laughing about it, though. He had a really good sense of humour. So it will slowly start to reveal itself as well, because where's the floor of this crater? How far down does it go? You don't know. You really don't know until you just start getting in there and gently removing some of this soggy debris. And there's a good chance as well that there are a few loose shards of bone in this. Could that be one there? Possibly. Anything that's a bit kind of not off-white, almost yellowy, but no, the white areas, it's almost always just dead soggy skin. Anything that you see that might be a slightly off-white, almost yellowish, that's more than likely going to be bits of bone that's been crumbling away. And why has it happened? I don't think I got into that before, did I? Yeah, a blood flow is probably the long and short of it, combined with infection as well. And so any living tissue in the body needs blood, because blood carries oxygen and all the other nutrients that go with it to keep that tissue alive. And if you haven't got that, then that tissue dies and just basically crumbles and erodes, rots away, if you prefer that word. I do get asked if there's an odour as well. There wasn't in this one. It's quite rare that you get an odour. Maybe I'm just
Thinking
a
about
bit.
it.
Maybe I'm just a bit immune to it, possibly. But and I've had a bit of a cold recently, so that may have played some part. But I never noticed anything too much, to be honest. There are one or two that can be a little, what's the polite word? There's no polite word for it. Pungent, maybe. But you obviously you don't let the patient know that. You don't want to make them embarrassed about it. It's not their fault. So again, just trying to work my way through these little soggy areas just to see how far down we go. Now, here's where, can you just see on the left-hand side of the image now, just to the left of the suction probe? And I'm not sure now, until I touched it, which it didn't feel any pain with at all, that I'm pretty sure that yellowy bit with a couple of bits curling upwards, pretty sure that was the base of the ear canal as it was. Pretty sure that that's bone, and you will see as I touch it that whole thing moves. And as I touched that, it kind of just felt different. I'm touching it to see if it's loose. I don't think it is. See if those bits are loose, if those bits come away. But you can tell as soon as you touch up against stuff like that that it's not dead skin, it's not keratin, it's bone. So now I've got a better idea of the anatomy, so to speak, and it's obviously it's not what you would expect. And I think it's at this point that he probably had enough. I've exposed the problem. He didn't want me to carry on at that point, which is fine. That's completely his prerogative. But you can see from where the old floor of the ear canal that there's loads of stuff beneath it that's just eroded away. There is a fair bit of room underneath there before you get to anything too important. But still, bit of a nasty one. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. It's a bit of a horrible, nasty ear soup of a thing, wasn't it? But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And I would really appreciate it if you could like the video or subscribe to the channel. That would help me out massively. I hope you enjoyed that. But for now, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon. Ta-da.